Ibrahim Traoré says goodbye to Burkina Faso with a letter that touches millions of hearts. The main hall of the Koziam Palace was full on this historic day. Ministers, journalists, religious leaders, and community leaders were all gathered, waiting in silence and with worry. News of an important message from President Ibrahim Traoré had spread quickly across the country, bringing concern from the capital to the smallest villages in the Sahel. Ibrahim Traoré entered the room. He wore his traditional uniform, perfectly clean and fitted. His usually calm face showed deep emotion, and his eyes were full of strength and sadness. The room became completely quiet. Behind him, the green and red flag with the yellow star looked brighter than ever, as if reminding everyone that this moment was part of the nation's history. His hands, which had greeted farmers, touched children's heads in schools, and saluted soldiers at the front, shook a little as he took a folded letter from his pocket. The cameras showed every movement, every breath like a sacred moment. "Burkina Faso, my dear people," he began, his voice a bit shaky before becoming steady. He spoke like a son talking to his family, close and honest. "Today, I speak not as your president, but as Ibrahim, the boy from Bobo Dioulasso, who grew up listening to the elders' stories under the big baobab tree." He talked about his simple childhood, full of discipline and honor, taught by parents who never went to school but knew the value of dignity. He shared how life in the dry lands of the Sahel shaped his view of the world and his love for the country. "I learned early that a man's worth is not in what he owns, but in how he serves others," he said, his voice becoming stronger. "That belief led me to the military, not because I loved weapons, but because I wanted to protect our land and our people." Traoré then spoke about his journey as a soldier, as a patriot, and finally as someone who carried the dream of a people who wanted justice and dignity. His words flowed with emotion but were clear and strong, like he had practiced them many times in his heart. The cameras showed the emotion in his eyes, the fire that had inspired many young people in Burkina Faso. The journalists, who often took notes or whispered, were completely still, afraid to miss a single word of this powerful moment. "If I stand before you today," he continued, "it is to tell you that I will soon take a new path that leads beyond our borders." That sentence hit the room like thunder on a quiet day. A soft murmur spread through the hall, but quickly faded as he kept talking. "I must tell you why, because you deserve the truth, all of it." The whole room seemed to stop breathing. Ministers, generals, and diplomats all looked shocked. No one had guessed that this meeting would be such an important turning point in the country's history. Outside the palace, thousands of people watched on big screens in public squares, their faces showing the same surprise. Ibrahim Traoré paused, looking around the room as if to remember every face. Then he continued reading. He was about to explain something that seemed impossible to understand to a people he always saw as the heart of their strongest hopes. "I know my decision will not be understood," Ibrahim Traoré said, his voice growing stronger, "and that many will criticize it, especially foreign observers and political analysts who have never walked on our red soil or understood our deep struggle." His eyes, now sharp and focused, looked around the room filled with confused and worried faces. People's hands gripped the arms of their chairs, showing the weight of the moment. "Let this be very clear," he continued. "I am not leaving Burkina Faso. I am taking on a bigger mission. My decision is not about running away or giving up. My soul will never leave this land. I am a son of this country until my last heartbeat." A shiver ran through the room. In the streets of Ouagadougou, crowds stood silently in front of big screens, hanging on every word of the man who gave them hope. Traoré spoke about his journey since becoming the country's leader. He reminded everyone of the hard choices, sleepless nights, and the constant threats from terrorism in the Sahel region. He talked about the international pressure, foreign interference, and hidden economic sanctions when Burkina Faso decided to choose its own path. "From day one, I made my decisions not for comfort or politics, but because I believed it was right, he said firmly. I never broke my promise to serve the people above all. The room was silent. Even the photographers stayed still, afraid that a single click would break the moment. I always said that if I ever leave, it would be my body, not my spirit. He placed his hand on his heart, a simple but powerful gesture quickly captured by every camera. Burkina Faso breathes in me, just as I breathe in it. Every grain of this land lives in my blood. Then, with his usual honesty, he spoke about the criticism he faced for building partnerships outside the usual powers. His face became more serious, showing the strength of a soldier behind the emotion. They said we were wrong to look for new friends, to refuse the old ways of economic control, he said, now with a firm voice. But being African has never meant being submissive. Our dignity is not for sale. Our independence is not for negotiation. The room responded with soft approval. Some ministers and military officers nodded in agreement. I am not leaving to hide. I am leaving to open doors that were always closed to our people. That sentence felt like a promise, a reason that started to make sense of everything. IBRAHIM Traoré explained that his current position limited what he could do for the future of the country. He talked about the bloc talks, the restrictions, and the hidden threats that stopped him from acting freely for the good of Burkina Faso. Sometimes, to truly serve those we love, we must step back, he said, his voice soft and deep. This is the hardest lesson I've ever had to learn. As he turned the page of his letter, a ray of sunlight came through the tall palace windows and lit up his face, creating a magical moment that everyone noticed. IBRAHIM looked up, as if the light gave him new strength, and continued reading. Do not be mistaken, he said. I am not leaving to hide. I am leaving to find new space for our independence, to defend our interests where decisions are made without us. The sunlight continued to shine in the room as IBRAHIM Traoré began the third part of his speech. At first, the room felt heavy because of his announcement, but now it slowly started to change. Faces that once looked worried were now filled with curiosity and hope. What I am going to tell you today has never been said before, he began, lowering his voice to create a feeling of closeness in the large room. These past months, while our soldiers fought bravely on the field, I was fighting another battle, silent, but just as important. He then explained that his new mission would take him to a new African International Council, a group of nations working together to protect their food and energy needs. This council would have strong powers to speak directly with world powers, without going through the usual systems that often ignore Africa. I accepted this role not to run away from my duty, but to make it bigger, he said clearly. From Burkina Faso, I could protect our people. From this new position, I can protect all the people of the Sahel, including us. People in the room whispered in surprise. Journalists started writing fast, realizing how important this moment was. While many were guessing my plans, we were secretly setting up exchange and training programs for our youth. A small smile appeared on his face for the first time. Starting next year, 500 young Burkinabés, chosen from each province for their talent and dedication, will go study engineering, farming, medicine, and other important subjects for our country's future. The room was filled with amazement. Some ministers looked at each other in shock. They didn't know about these secret plans. Yes, he continued in a serious tone. I will step away from the presidency for a while, but know this. Everything has been carefully planned. I will never leave our country without guidance. He explained that in the coming weeks, a transition government would be created. It would be made of people chosen not for politics, but for their skills and honesty. The names would be shared soon, after talking with the wise leaders of the country. I always look to the future, he said strongly. What I plant today, you will harvest for generations. Our patience will be rewarded. Our courage will be honored. IBRAHIM Traoré then spoke about the past unfair treatment of Burkina Faso in the world. bad trade deals, stolen resources, and being left out of important world meetings. Today, our country is respected, he said with quiet pride. But that respect did not come without pain, without sacrifice, without courage. Respect does not come. It is the result of all of us deciding not to be background characters in our own story. Another ray of sunlight came through the windows, making a glowing circle around him. Cameras captured this moment. The light made his words feel even more powerful. "My departure is not running away," he said, while looking at everyone. "It is a smart step forward, like a lion who leaves his group for a moment to find new hunting lands." This comparison made some traditional leaders smile. "I still care deeply for our farmers, our soldiers, our teachers, and our children," he continued. His voice became softer, more like a father. "I may not sit in the president's chair anymore, but my heart will always beat for Burkina Faso." He stopped for a moment to see how people reacted. The worry on their faces was now turning into interest and hope. "The future of Burkina Faso must be protected even outside our borders," he said, "because the danger to our freedom does not always start here. Many of them are planned far away, in cold rooms thousands of kilometers from us. That is where I must now speak for us." The feeling in the Koziam Palace room changed. What started as a sad announcement was now becoming a clear and strong plan. But when IBRAHIM Traoré started talking about his personal life, emotions filled the room again. "Now I want to speak about the people who made me who I am," he said, his voice shaking a little. "My parents, who left this world too early, but who are watching me from above." He looked up for a moment, a simple and powerful gesture. "My father was a man who did not speak much, but had strong values. My mother had the quiet strength of Sahelian women who carry heavy burdens without ever breaking." The room was silent, showing deep respect for these unknown people who were so important to the man speaking. They dreamed of a country that was proud, fair, and respected, a country where their grandchildren could grow up without hunger or shame. His voice cracked a little, showing rare emotion from a man usually so strong. He spoke of his childhood in Bobo Dioulasso, the nights spent listening to storytellers speak of African heroes who resisted colonization. He said these stories shaped his political beliefs and his love for his country. "They were not just stories," he said. "They were lessons, guides, and messages for the future. They taught me that our pride cannot be sold, that our history is valuable, and that our future belongs to us." Then he talked about his time as a soldier, the hard days when he saw his fellow soldiers die to protect helpless villages from terrorist groups. You could see the pain on his face as he remembered. "These experiences changed how I see the world," he said. "They taught me that power only means something when it is used to protect the weak. That power without kindness is just cruelty." The room quietly agreed with him, their hearts touched. Many veterans in the room nodded to show they understood. "My fight was never for titles or glory," he said with a very honest voice. "It was always for dignity, the dignity of our people, the dignity of our continent." Then he said a sentence that would stay in everyone's mind. "Being a leader is not about giving orders. It is about carrying the weight of millions of people with humility." The cameras showed the traditional leaders nodding again, touched by his wise words that reminded them of their own teachings. IBRAHIM Traoré then thanked the youth of the country, those who walked with him, who believed in him, even when his choices were hard to understand. "You were my strength when I was tired," he said with emotion. "Your trust protected me from doubt and sadness." He admitted that he had made mistakes, that sometimes he lacked patience or diplomacy. But he said every action he took, even when not perfect, came from deep love for his country. "I never said I was perfect," he added in a humble way. "I have fallen, I have doubted, I have sometimes taken the wrong path, but I never lost sight of where we are going together, to a free, strong, and respected Burkina." He spoke again about how important education and youth are to truly change the country. His eyes lit up as he talked about the schools built in rural areas, the scholarships given to children from poor families, and the work done to improve technical training. Real freedom starts in classrooms, he said with strength. And educated people can never be fully controlled. Then, proudly, he added, "If I am respected abroad today, it is not because of my rank or title. It is because of what I learned here with all of you. I carry your wisdom and show your courage." The end of this part of his speech came in a soft but strong voice. "I leave with tears in my eyes, but also with hope in my heart. Because I know this is not a goodbye. It is the start of a new chapter in our shared story." The sun was going down over Ouagadougou, casting long shadows through the tall windows of the Koziam Palace. IBRAHIM Traoré, now calm but emotional, started the last part of his historic speech. The mood in the room had changed. The shock from the beginning was now replaced by calm, hope, and strength. "This new chapter does not depend only on me," he said clearly. "It depends on each of you, on your watchfulness, your participation, your courage." He looked at the people in the room as if speaking to each person directly. "I always said I'm not a savior, I'm just a servant of this amazing people." He smiled, the first true smile of the event. "And that's why I leave in peace, because the strength of Burkina Faso is not in one man, it is in the unity of its people." He then spoke about the pride he felt every time he saw the Burkina flag at international conferences, or heard the national anthem played with respect on world stages. "5 years ago, people looked down on us," he said. "Today, they listen to us with attention. That is true respect. You earn this respect through your strength, your dignity, and your refusal to follow orders from outside." IBRAHIM said that he had been offered high-level jobs in big cities around the world, jobs that could have given him an easy life, far from the daily problems of his country. "But I was never tempted," he said with confidence. "I was not made for foreign palaces. I was shaped in the dust of Ouagadougou, fed by the hopes of my people, and raised with their struggles.